And we are live. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. And we are live. Great evening, everybody. This is Dr. Larry White Sr. broadcasting live from the Dr. Larry White Sr. Show. And I have an amazing guest tonight. But before we bring her on board and also read her bio, I want to give everybody an opportunity to log on. And I'm going to share the broadcast out into these groups so y'all can join us because it's going to be great. One of the most influential African-American females in the country, leader, everything, pastor, esquire, you name it. So let me just share this out while everybody matriculates in here. Okay. And I'm going to be silent while I do this so we can have maximum participation tonight. Okay. God, Mom, I have to share it in my entrepreneurs group. The mastermind folks will be on tonight.
Okay.
Let's see here. Best-selling authors. Okay. Y'all just come on in, and I'm going to bring y'all in shortly. Okay. DMV. Couple more groups. Okay. Okay, and that'll be it for now. Great evening, everybody. Dr. Larry White Sr. Just want to give you a couple of public service announcements before we get to my amazing guest tonight. I will be in Atlanta, March 12th through the 14th for our Deposit Your Dreams into Success. Shout out to all of the members there that are coming. Nikki Blakely Simmons, you're in ATL, Courtney Lee Smith, and all of the folks that are coming from the DMV. We're going to do some social distance, book signings, and all that good stuff. So March 12th through the 14th. In Atlanta, Georgia. There's no address on the flyer because it's social distance. Rapid COVID testing will be happening. So thank you so much, everybody that's registered, and we'll see you there. Also, April 1st through the 4th, we will have our open house, and that's for all mastermind members and your families. So more to come. All right, I have a bio to read before we bring. I call her Mom. I call her the Queen. She's amazing. So let me read a bio of our amazing VIP guest tonight, everybody. Dr. E. Faye Williams, President of the National Congress of Black Women, served as Presidential Scholars Commissioner for President Barack Obama. Now listen, I have to just, for that one right there, Mom, I just gotta be like, that was nice. I've been broadcasting all of your photos with Michelle and Biden and everything. So this is just a pleasant, just really honored to interview you tonight. If I get choked up, everybody, that's because you'll see what I'm talking about. So let me continue with the bio and all the accolades. Okay, former teacher in Los Angeles, law professor at Southern University School of Law, worked for several units of the NEA. You're gonna have to tell me what NEA is.
National Education Association.
Okay, all right. Including Director of Overseas Education Association, BS degree from Grambling, HBCU in the building. All right, got that bachelor's from Grambling. You have a master's and a PhD in public administration from the City University of Los Angeles and University of Southern California. I also see J.D. Howard School of Law, University, and then you have your divinity minister, your ordained minister from Wesley Theological Seminary. Is that correct?
That's correct. Yes.
All right. Well, I'm gonna scroll down here a little bit. Life member of Delta Sigma Theta Incorporated, NAACP, and National Congress for Black Women. Member of the DC Bar Association. Past president of Grambling Alumni Association. Wow. OIC's Keys to Success Award History Makers. Member of Grambling University Hall of Fame. Okay, Mom, that is amazing. NAACP Presidential Legacy Award. And listen, this is it, y'all. National Policy Alliance Award, I Rise Award, for work on domestic violence, Women of Courage Award from the National Women's Political Caucus. 4 mottos: Freedom Sisters, Who's Who in Black DC, Ebony Magazine, and one of my favorites of all of them, 100 Most Influential Black Americans and Power 150, honored by Women's History Alliance. Dr. E. Faye Williams, Reverend Dr. E. Faye Williams, Esquire. Mom, welcome to the show.
Well, thank you very much, son. All of that just means I'm a country girl, and I knew that I had to work harder than everybody else to get along in this world. So I just went. My mom always told me, you get an education in your head, nobody can take it away from you. So I just kept on feeling that since I was a country girl, I might need a little bit more. So I just worked. And I actually worked while I was doing all of my degrees. I never had the luxury of just going to school. I just had to, go from work to school, and it worked out. And I'm not through yet. I love reading. I love working. And I'm going to probably get another degree. I think about 3 doctorates and 1 law degree. So I'll make it to about number 5 at least.
At least number 5, very impressed. And I just have people to understand, when my mother passed away 3 years ago, Dr. Faye Williams was right there by my side. And she says, hey, you can call me mom. And so I told some of my friends, my mentors today, if I go off cuff and say, Reverend, Pastor, Counselor, you may hear me throw mom in there a couple of times. So I thank you so much for blessing me. And it's so many different directions we can go. So let me just start off now. You've given us a lot of info. Well, I read your bio, but for those who may not know, how did you get started? Like I know where you're from, but how did you get started in being a civil rights icon, pioneer? We're going to get to Dick Gregory in a little bit, but just talk to us a little bit about your childhood, the way you were raised, because you are one prominent, amazing African-American leader, woman that I admire so much. So talk to us about your young days growing up in Louisiana. How did all this come into fruition?
Well, when I was a little girl, we lived in the country. My mom had 9 children. My dad left home when I was 11. So my mom reared us all by herself, as many women do. They rear their children by themselves. But that doesn't give us an excuse not to grow up to be a good person and to take all kinds of responsibilities. And we were 7 girls before we were a boy. So we had to do all the jobs. There was no such thing as girls' jobs and boys' jobs. We did whatever was necessary to do. But we lived back in the country, as I said, and we didn't have a school bus to take us to school. So my mom had her children go around in the community. And when I say the community, they weren't just next door. They were far apart. So we had to walk, get those petitions signed. First of all, get a gravel road to come out to our house so that we could then get a bus to come and pick up the children in our area. So that was kind of the beginning of my activist, work. And from that point on, my mother always taught all of us how to be involved in making our community better. So I've done that every place I've ever lived. I've lived in many places. I've lived in California, Louisiana, Michigan, Atlanta. I've lived abroad, but wherever I have been, my mother had ingrained it in my head that I had a responsibility to be one who does public service.
And you had mentioned, we were talking offline, did you end up running for public office at some point?
I did. I ran for the United States Congress in Louisiana, and I know many of your listeners have probably heard of the horror stories about Louisiana. Let me tell you, they were all true. I was the first African-American to run a viable campaign for the United States Congress in Louisiana. I ran against several white males. I won the primary, and Louisiana has an open primary, so the second behind me was a Republican. The district was only about 37% Black, but I think I probably got 99% of the Black vote. Only thing is, it was Louisiana, and I only received 27% of the white vote. Even some Democrats didn't vote for me. They just weren't accustomed to seeing a Black person running, and even some of the brothers were not accustomed to seeing a Black woman running. So it was very challenging. But after I'd been in the race for about 3 or 4 months, there was a newspaper headline saying Williams may be the key to this race. So I ran the race, I ran in the runoff, and I was announced as the winner, and it was called back. And I was told that I lost by less than 0.6%. Everyone still calls me Louisiana's woman, Congresswoman in exile, because they're pretty certain that they were a little hanky-panky, but in those days, I didn't have the money to challenge it, even though it was very, very close. And in Louisiana, you had to pay to challenge a race. So I still believe in politics. I work very hard in it to help elect a lot of other people. And one of the good things I can say after I ran, many people tell me that I encouraged them to run. And Louisiana has since had 3 Black Congress people. They had none before I ran, but there have been now 3 Black people who run. And then the most exciting thing is Louisiana has had many women run for mayors of cities, and many of them tell me I influenced them to run. The last time I counted, Louisiana had about 20 Black women mayors, including in the 3 largest cities. One, however, has now dropped out. So New Orleans and Baton Rouge have Black female mayors. Those are 2 of the 3 largest Black cities in Louisiana. So I'm really excited about that.
Absolutely. I got to tell you, listening to your show the other day with Bishop Joe Simon, just you have been around and you've worked with some amazing people and interviewed people and just worked with a lot of people. So we're going to ask some of those questions. Might be a little biased, put you on the spot here in a moment. But what have you been what have you been up to during the pandemic? It's coming up on a year. We have, as the news has reported, over 500,000 people have died of COVID-19. Since the pandemic started, what have you been up to? Because I know you're an attorney. You do so much in the community. I was so impressed. I told my wife the other day that when you told me, I was like, are you kidding me? Mom wrote the obituary for Cicely Tyson. Like 30 minutes is not going to be enough to get everything out, but we're going to do the best we can. But tell us what you've been up to during the pandemic.
Well, first of all, Cicely was one of my very best friends. We spent a lot of time together. We had a lot of fun together. We could just really laugh and walk around, fix the food. You know, both of us were semi-vegetarians. We weren't total vegetarians. But I've been doing a lot more during the pandemic than I normally would do when there was no pandemic, because I could work from my home. And, you know, you probably know that too. You wind up working a lot later at night than you would have had you been away in an office. I'm up sometimes until 2, 3, 4 o'clock in the morning and still up the following morning working. But what this time allowed me to do, in addition to the work I usually do for the National Congress of Black Women, it allowed me to write a book. So I finished my book last night at 2 o'clock in the morning and got it off to the publisher. So that's one of the things that I added during the pandemic. I just kind of never allow anything to get me down or to stop me from doing what needs to be done. And of course, since we've all discovered Zoom and all these other things that we can communicate with people, I've done a lot of people's book reviews, just a lot of them. I've had to read them to know what they were about. And as you know, I do a radio program too, and I'm a journalist. I write every week an article. So there was never a dull moment during this pandemic. I mean, there were times, of course, you wanted to see a friend, you want to just give somebody a hug or have somebody give you a hug, but that just wasn't possible. But I just kept on doing all the things I usually do and more.
I don't know, every time I talk to you, you're on the road, you're helping. And I'm just always amazed of everything that you know, you're one of those people, Mom, that when you come into the room, the temperature goes up, it gets real good. You always are there for everybody. I've had an opportunity to,
excuse me.
No worries, God bless you. I've had an opportunity to be with you at some awards and see you being honored and keynote speaker in Annapolis and also in Glen Burnie. And it's just been an honor to hear you speak, and you've just been around, and I've learned quite a bit from you. When I first met you, I didn't have any books published. Now I've got 5, so I thank you for inspiring me. Yeah, I've written 3 books. Thank you, Mom. I've written 3 books during the pandemic, so you're right. It gives us more time to do things when we probably wouldn't have that idle time running around. So this was definitely an opportunity, in my humble opinion, where we could pause and love on our families and do some other things. So tell us about the new book that's coming out. When is it going to be?
Excuse me.
Oh, no worries. Tell us about the new book. God bless you. Tell us about the new book, and also tell us about your radio show as well.
Mm-hmm. Well, many people know that Dick Gregory and I were kind of running buddies. We did so many things together. We would go and participate in rallies. In fact, we participated in rallies all across the country, all across the world. We actually went to London to protest the fact that many people had not been paid after that British petroleum oil spill down in New Orleans off the coast. We traveled all over to Texas, Mississippi, Alabama, wherever people had lost their property or lost their jobs. Churches were losing, tithes because the members didn't have money. So we traveled all over. And one of the trips I remember having with Mr. Gregory was a 2-week trip where we were traveling across the South. And of course, I thought we were going to drive. We flew to New Orleans, rented a car, and then we were going to drive from Louisiana all the way down Florida to all of the main cities in Florida to do rallies. Well, we arrived at this one city, I remember, and it had been pouring down rain. And we got into the city. He woke up and he said, "Do you want me to drive?" So that's the way it was with him. He didn't drive 1 mile on the trip. So a 2-week trip where I drove the entire 2 weeks. And another time, I asked him to go up and get Mr. Gregory's luggage. Well, if anybody's ever traveled with Mr. Gregory, they know that he carried lots of bags. So when the young man took the little rack up and I said to him, "You're going to need one bigger than that." He said, "Oh, no, that'll be okay." He went up, he came back down with these 11 bags. He says, "Wow, I think that's a record." So I've now written a book about him, and I've tried to tell some things that people may not have known about him. It was, as you know, a person, but there were just some funny things that people may not have known about him, and I put them into a book. Hopefully our book will be out in just a few months, and we'll be doing what you're doing, introducing the book. I've written a few books myself, but this one has been the most exciting one that I've done. And it was he who introduced me to Cicely Tyson. As a matter of fact, one night he just drove by my house, had her in the car. She came in and we met, and we were friends instantly. Yeah. So it was quite shocking, of course, when she passed away, because she was like the picture of health. She had spent 2 weeks with me just before that. We had been walking out on the street, and we were coming from getting our nails done and all. And this woman walks up to us real fast, and she said, she stopped in front of us. She said, "You look just like Cicely Tyson." And Miss Tyson always would say, "People often tell me that." She wouldn't lie. She would just say, "People often tell me that." And so the woman thought, "Oh, I guess that's not her." Then she walked on half of the block, and she came rushing back and jumped in front of Miss Tyson and me, and she said, "Is you her?" And we just thought that was the funniest thing. We laughed. But she kind of, let her guard down. When we were together, we'd have a great time.
I got to tell you, seeing the pictures from Miss Tyson's funeral that you were part of, just an iconic figure for Black actors, actresses, the things that she, she should have been awarded an Oscar, and we just know how those times were, where African Americans were just not given the opportunities and rewarded. But she hung in there and was just an icon, a great role model, just to see that what she impacted for Tyler Perry, and look where he's at. And just to thank little old Dr. Faye Williams from Louisiana has just been in the room with all these great people making an impact. So I'm just again, honored to have you on the show. Now you have,
by the way, Tyler was on the funeral program, and we had a photo from the White House. We were there together when Miss Tyson received her medal, presidential medal. And he was on the program, and he was telling us about the first time Miss Tyson knew that there was such a thing as FaceTime on a phone. So he called her, and ultimately, after they talked for a while, she looked at the phone. She says, "Oh, I see you on this phone." He said, "Yes, and I see you too." And so she threw the phone across the room because she was in her nightgown, sitting on her bed with her twisted on top of her head. She had no idea, he could see her. But we had lots of funny stories. We had lots of fun together.
That's amazing, and I thank you so much for sharing. I think Bill Clinton was there at the funeral you had mentioned, and I was watching ABC News a few weeks ago, and she had just did an interview with Gayle King. Gayle King, yes. Yeah, and she was looking great.
And she had just introduced her book too when she was talking to Gayle. Her book had come.
That's right. That's right.
Days before that. Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I tell you, you have been there, done that, and you continue to do it. I'm not even surprised that you would write this book in honor of your great friend Dick Gregory, and then even pursue more degrees, the ones that you already have. So let's talk a little bit about
you know what you mentioned. You said to tell your listeners about my radio program.
Mhm.
Now, it doesn't come on at the same time you're on, so there's no conflict here. On Wednesday morning, 10 o'clock Eastern time, and my program is in remembrance of Mr. Gregory. It's called Wake Up and Stay Woke. And the reason for that name is those were the last words I heard him say the day, actually the morning that he passed away. Later in the afternoon, I had heard him talking about it. We were talking about the Charlottesville problem at that time, and the people in Boston were having a protest rally or support rally, for whichever you want to call it. And those were the last words I heard him say. He used a little saltier language than I would use, but in essence, what he said was wake up and stay woke. You can't learn anything if you're talking all the time.
Amen. And now I know we talked about this a little bit offline, and thank you everybody. Continue to give us some hearts, give us some likes. We are chopping it up here tonight with the Reverend Dr. E. Faye Williams, Esquire. A lot of titles, y'all. And you just look, she just put Faye up there. She didn't put none of the doctor, none of that stuff up there. So humble and so amazing. Just quietly get it done. I would like for you to talk about how people can donate to the show, because you do take donations to keep it on air, correct?
Yes, absolutely. We don't take grants, we don't take ad money or anything like that. And that's so that we can talk about what we need to talk about. My show is one of those that is a justice show, voting rights, civil rights, etc. So we have friends who donate to keep the show on the air. And on this Wednesday coming up, that's the last of our donations for this quarter. So I always invite friends to go to WPFWFM.org, WPFWFM.org, and give a donation. Last week, we were giving away Joe Simon's book. We have other Black books and tapes that we give away from time to time. We have WPFW masks. Everybody wants and needs masks this time. So I hope people will also call in. But the easiest thing to do is to go to WPFW FM 89.3. And then if there's someone in your listening audience who has something important that they want to talk about, just give me a call. I'll be happy to schedule your listeners on my program so that they can talk about what they're doing. But just remember, it's mainly about civil rights, human rights. And I had Joe Simon on this past Wednesday, for the fact that he is now a bishop. He used to sing, and all of his music is still great. I told him I still listen to it, even though he's a bishop now. But he is taking the old public high school in his community, a little town in Louisiana near Alexandria, and he is helping to, rehabilitate that school because they allowed it to just get run down. So I'm working with him on that to get that school rehabilitated to make a community center. And he wants to have an educational component so the young people can come in and learn about all kinds of technology. They can also learn about music. And then, there'll be basketball courts and other things for the community to use that facility. And it's right in the neighborhood where he grew up. So that's what's exciting about it.
Absolutely. I caught that interview with the bishop, and we were laughing offline because when he got up there to do his last concert, he just he couldn't sing the words because the Lord had chose a different path for him. And that was just a great interview, as always.
Thank
you. I've got a couple things I want to ask you before we get you out here. So you are the national chair, the president for the Congress for Black Women. Tell us how that came about and what's that all about?
Sure. 1984, Shirley Chisholm, the Congresswoman, and Dr. C. Dolores Tucker had gone to a Democratic convention, and that's when the first woman was selected to run as the vice presidential candidate. But they didn't even consider Shirley Chisholm or Barbara Jordan, any of those great Black women. They just, pulled a white woman out of the basket and allowed her to be the candidate. Well, of course, they lost that election, but we decided that it was absolutely necessary for Black women to take charge and get more Black women running for office, get more Black women in the position to be running for things like vice president. It took a long time for it to happen, but ultimately we succeeded in what we started out to do, because we now have Vice President Kamala Harris. But in between, we've elected many, many Black women to the Congress, and we've had a couple in the Senate, and we have mayors all over. I mean, we've had Black women mayors all over the country. We still have many. Of course, we have Baltimore, we have DC. Well, we had Baltimore, we have DC, we have Rochester, we have Rochester, New York. We have Baton Rouge, New Orleans, Atlanta. I mean, just you name it. Black women are in such exciting cities and doing great things in them. So we're very happy that we did start that, to promote Black women and encourage them to run, and also to help them. Because one of the things that had always kept Black women from running for office is, our mothers taught us not to ask men for money, and men generally had the money. So we didn't have money to run for office, but now we're blessed. We can go out there, we can go online, we can have events and raise money to run. And fortunately, most of us run on very little money. We don't always raise the kind of money that some of the men do, but men are now willing to support women running for office. And that's a blessing, because for years we have supported the men in our community running for all kinds of office. So we're very, very happy that we did that. Shirley Chisholm served as our first president, and Dr. C. Dolores Tucker was the second. Before Dr. Tucker died, she made everybody know that she wanted me to follow her. So I wasn't even elected. I was the general counsel for the organization, but nobody on the board objected to it. And so the moment she passed away, I became president of the organization. I've now been the national president for 15 years. They also took away my having to run for office. At a certain point, they just said, oh, just as long as you want, basically. So here I am over 15 years later, being national president of the organization. And we've grown tremendously. We're still growing. And we're always looking for people to start chapters in their towns so that we can work with them, we can help them. We allow our chapters to do whatever their local community needs. We don't mandate anything that they have to do other than what their communities need. Just as, for instance, what happened in Texas, we easily help them there when we have hurricanes or what have you. We're there to help. We go where the work is needed. And I'm just so excited that we have such wonderful members. If you have somebody out there who wants to form a chapter, we only need 10 members to get started. They can always call me. My numbers are always open. I answer every single call I get. And if you don't mind, I could give out our office phone, which is 202-678-6788. That's 202-678-6788. And we have a wonderful website at National Congress, BW is for Black women, nationalcongressbw.org. So I hope to hear from some of your listeners. I know you've got some smart listeners, because I've met some of them. I've been there to speak to some of your events, and I've met some of your members. So I know they're capable of starting an organization along with the other work they do.
Absolutely. And y'all heard the charge from Dr. Faye Williams. Call in, start a chapter. If you're out there listening, the Honorable R. Wesley Webb, know you have a chapter meeting on the national level for one of Delaware, New York chapter, but I would like for you to connect with Dr. Faye Williams, partnerships there with the 100 Black Men, and just all of the people that are listening. And this is just some powerful information. And we old school, we give out that phone number right here live, and we're going to get that contact information again here shortly.
Right. And I'm very proud of you, because, I don't think you had any books when I met you, but you see what happens when you have me for a mom.
That's right. That's right. Listen, a mom, a mentor, it's always good to call you in the middle of the night and just get some advice, or whenever you're not busy. Y'all, every time I talk to her, she on the road. About 3 weeks ago, she was on her way down to Louisiana, her and her nephew, and she didn't know this, but I was praying for her traveling mercies, but she's always involved. I asked her offline, do you find some time to get some rest? Because her phone is always ringing. She's always there representing and making this world a better place to live. I have to ask you this, just a couple more questions, Mom, before we get you out of here. What was it like working with the Obamas 12 years when they were in the White House? I mean, obviously the past 4 years have been an absolute mess. I won't even mention his name, and he's trying to break up the GOP party. But let's just take a step back when you were working with the Obamas in and out of the White House, with Michelle, with everybody there. What was your interaction with the Obamas?
Well, of course, my most exciting time was probably when we were working to get him elected. And that's where I met Michelle, our first lady. And she's still my first lady, like she is a lot of people's first lady, although I do like Mrs. Biden too. But I had an opportunity to attend many events at the White House, to be called on for advice. And one of the things that was really exciting for me, when I was there with Mr. Gregory the night the health plan passed, the Affordable Care Act, we were sitting up in the balcony, and one of the congressmen had taken us in to be sure we got in and we got a seat. And I decided that let me just call over the White House or send them a note and tell them what they should call this health plan, because many people were talking about it and saying very negative things about it. So I said, it should be called Obama Cares. Now, I did have the S on the end. They ultimately chose Obamacare. They took the S off, but I think I had a lot to do with naming it Obamacare. Yeah. So we had an opportunity to attend many events. We had an opportunity to attend many events at the White House. I was lucky to be able to take Mr. Gregory to one. He had not gone to anybody's White House at any time. I think he'd probably picketed and been arrested so many times he thought that he wouldn't be able to get in. But I did take him one time. I took Miss Tyson. Miss Tyson was also there a couple of times we were there. And we always had fun. And the Obamas always gave us a big wave if we weren't close to them. Michelle would lean over, reach over people to say hello. And I just loved her. When I met her on the campaign trail, I told her we were about to put Sojourner Truth in the United States Capitol, that we were going to have a big event, and we wanted her to be the speaker. Once she was elected, I was at the White House the first week they were in the White House, and I walked over to her and reminded her. She said, "Oh, I didn't forget. I'm still going to do it." So she came and she unveiled Sojourner Truth for us. We're the organization that made Sojourner Truth the first Black woman to have a memorial in the United States Capitol. We were very proud of that. And I was then later chosen to serve on the Scholars Commission. That too was a big honor. They're some of the smartest kids in the world that we worked with when they were selected to be, one of the presidential scholars. So I'm really excited about that. We always had great work to do there. We didn't just go there just to entertain ourselves or to entertain anybody. We always had work to do when we were there.
Outstanding. I tell you, what a great 12 years it was. That just to
8 years, right? 8 years, yeah, 2 4-year terms.
You know what? I'm going back. I'm thinking about. Well, I really want to say it was the two terms.
It was 12 years ago that they were there.
Yeah, there you go. And I tell you, we just got to get back to that. And I know Biden and Kamala are gonna, I just even feel a difference in the air now that they have been elected. So it's just been a rough 4 years. And I know you've always been boots on the ground, always there, just doing your part. Obama cares. Who would have never known? I should have known you had something to do with that. So y'all heard it here first with Dr. Faye Williams. She had something to do. It was interesting.
I also met President Biden. Of course, he was vice president then. I met him the first week they were in the White House. And I walked over to the table and I picked up some cantaloupe and little fresh fruit. And walked over and he picked up a sweet roll. And he walked up to me and said, "See, that's why you look like you look and why I look like I look." And we kind of had a big laugh over that. And there was a photo out there of the two of us standing there laughing and talking. That's what the joke was.
Absolutely. Well, Mom, one last question before we get you out of here. We're coming out of the pandemic, still got a long way to go. Some people have tried to write books, start a business during the pandemic. Stimulus packages just don't seem to be enough to help businesses. People are really struggling. The economy's bad. What encouraging advice would you give our listening audience to just persevere, to keep on following their dreams, write that book and start their business? Because we want to come out better on the other side when it's said and done.
Right. Well, certainly use the time. Don't sit around and be sad or wish this hadn't happened. It has happened. So now the best thing to do is, as President Biden always says, be sure you're washing those hands, eat right, and try to keep your health up, if you can. And of course, wear that mask and, try not to be in big crowds. And of course, if you're a neighbor and you have access to a lot of food, share it with your neighbors. I know that's what we do. We have a project in the National Congress of Black Women where some of our members take food to other people every day. My sister happens to be in charge of the one in the DC area. She picks up food, takes it to seniors, helps them out, but try to learn to be lovable. Mr. Gregory always said, it's more important to be lovable than it is to be loved. So make sure you're the person who's being lovable. Keep your spirits up, read your Bible. If your church is online, go online so that you can listen to your church. And of course, call your relatives. We have Zoom calls to, for our relatives to get together and see each other, because now it's been over a year since many of us have seen each other. So the best thing to do is to just be sure that you're doing the right thing and you're reaching out. If somebody else is not calling you, you can call them. But there's always something that you can do to make somebody's day.
Absolutely. Listen, I want to thank everybody for joining the broadcast. Thank you for your likes. Thank you for your hearts. We have been talking to Reverend Dr. Faye Williams, Esquire. She's so amazing. And I would love for you to end the show with just a few encouraging words, but also your contact information so people can contact you for everything, for your radio show and for the National Black Women in Congress. Leave us your contact information and some encouraging words.
Okay. Of course, the numbers are for my office, 202-678-6788. That's 202-678-6788. You can go to my website, which is nationalcongressbw.org. And of course, you can always get me because all my numbers are always hooked up during this panic. No matter where I am, I can be on the road, but I can communicate with people because I think it's important for all of us to be better than we even think that we can be. And God will bless us if we serve our community. Service is so important. So everybody needs to find something that you can do, and everybody can do something. I don't care if it's a person with a disability or what, that person can do something to make somebody's day, to make somebody happy, and to help them with something they have to do. Mr. Gregory always said that service is the best thing that you can do. And we believe in that in the National Congress of Black Women. That's what makes everyone happy, is to have someone offer help to them, even when they cannot help themselves.
Mom, Dr. Faye Williams, I thank you so much for joining the broadcast. I will be on your show next Wednesday, right? Next Wednesday?
But maybe, I'm not looking at my book, but if I told you that, then it's next Wednesday.
I'll be on, and I just thank you so much.
Either way, let's just say you'll be on.
I'll be on. Sometimes
Okay.
I'm always listening. I may not be able to get through, but I'm always listening, and I encourage everybody to listen. She's always, really bringing some power, some light, and just have done so much work. And I know your work is not done, but I want to thank you for blessing this show tonight. We have just.
And by the way, yeah, it's 89.3 on the dial in case somebody can't find it. And when they call in, if they want to call in while you're on and make their donation, let us know they're doing it because you're there. That's why they would be doing it. Then you just call 202-588-0893. Now, you can't actually make the donation there, but you can tell Dr. White that you have made the donation in honor of him. We'll just be getting out of Black History Month, but then we'll be into Women's History Month. So find him, find, a woman if you want to do that, to add to him so that you can say you're doing it in honor of them. Tell us who the person is, and we'll be happy to give you a big applause for it.
Mom, I want to thank you because we are rounding out Black History Month, and I wanted to bring a strong African-American leader on the show to end. This is my last show of the month. I broadcast every week, and I just couldn't wait. We have been doing our Black History Moments every day, every week, me and the group, collectively and also individually. So this has been great. And I promised my listening audience one of the best in the country and in the world. All of the accolades, I know you know, a little bashful sometime when I read your bio. You're like, okay, I'm just a little old Dr. Faye Williams out of New
I'm a
Orleans.
country girl. That's what I say.
Country girl, yeah, yeah. And I just thank you so much because seeing you, you know, you always are at your best. You never complain, and you work with so many people. I mean, we could keep going. I will be having you back on the show because I want to get into all the people that you've worked with. I want to hear those conversations you used to have with the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And I want to, because I've had an opportunity to work a little bit with Ambassador Atala Shabazz, as she used to come into Annapolis with the Black Film Festival. So I used to be her transportation person there, her, Marla Gibbs, and some great folks that, you know, that I've met over the years, and you've worked with all of them as well. And so I just thank you so much for being on the show. Thank you for being an inspiration to many, and everything that you've done for the Black community, politics, civil rights. I mean, y'all got to go Google her. She is so amazing. To have her on the show, just as such an honor. So I thank you again, and I'll let you get back to your busy schedule, and preferably you'll get some sleep since the book is out. When does the book come out? Is the book come out in spring?
I plan to do it Father's Day weekend, and there's a special reason for that.
Okay, well, I look forward in getting that information and getting my copy, and I will definitely be supporting your new book. And thank you again for all that you do and how many people you have inspired and that you have been a blessing to, including myself. All
right. Thank you. Love you. Good night.
Good night. Thank you so much. God bless. Thank you, everybody.